Alright guys, Gemini back with another video. Now, one of the raging debates for years and years, and quoted by Ric Flair, uh, was Bret Hart a fail WWF champion? Ric Flair has, said in his book, Bret drew no money. Bret was a terrible WWF champion in '92. Bret was all about himself. I mean, Ric Flair has gone on record and absolutely blasted up Bret the Hitman Hart of being a fail WWF champion. So I thought an interesting topic for this video would be to examine, was Bret Hart really a fail of a WWF champion, or was he a victim of a very rough time for pro wrestling in '92, '93 when he was at his apex? Let's take a look. Let's see if we can examine if Bret was a fail as a champion or a success. Let's look at it. Thank you. Now, looking at this picture, this is a shot of Bret Hart wrestling Rowdy Piper in the Hoosier Dome at WrestleMania 8 in 1992. Now, this is when Bret started really getting noticed by WWF officials, and Vince McMahon is like, whoa, this could be the guy. Also in this title fight for the Intercontinental belt, Piper was the champion. Bret regained the Intercontinental title, and officials, I don't think they could ignore Bret anymore in his star power. They knew Hogan was leaving at the time. They knew they needed a new number one guy, and that was their decision to go with Bret in '92. WWF at the time was getting ready to host SummerSlam '92. They had 75,000 tickets to sell for Wembley Stadium, which they sold easily. It was the first UK pay-per-view. It was huge. They made huge money. And they went with the hometown boy, Davey Boy Smith, versus basically the number one guy in the company, Bret the Hitman Hart, the Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion. And it was tremendous. A great battle. And at this point, I think the WWF really took notice of Bret and said, hey, look, it's time to give him the belt. It's time to give him the strap. So the decision came, and the decision was made on October 11th, 1992, to have Ric Flair drop the world title to Bret the Hitman Hart in Saskatoon, Canada. Here's a shot of Bret on WWF Superstars, his first promo after he won the world title in 1992, standing up on the platform with Mean Gene Okerlund. So now, you got to ask yourself, looking at all those photos and memories of them building up Bret in 1992, you got to ask yourselves, why in the hell was Bret Hart's first WWF title win not on a pay-per-view, not on WWF Superstars, but simply at a house show, which later became a Coliseum home video? Why did they start their new star, their new world champion in '92, but his title win wasn't on TV? You got to ask, was that a good start for Bret to become a world champion at all when it wasn't even on TV? No, not only that, but Bret also was asked to replace Hulk Hogan in '92, who had been the flagship, the standard bearer for upwards of 8 years, the most over guy in the world, the most popular wrestler in the world, who had a ton of charisma, where Bret had more wrestling skills. And Bret didn't have as much charisma and couldn't really talk on the mic like Hulk. And Bret was supposed to just go in and replace Hulk Hogan like that. Bret was quiet, but he did all his talking inside the ring. So you have to ask yourself, during that time frame in 1992, who was exactly expected to replace Hulk Hogan? They tried Lex Luger. He didn't work. They tried Bret the Hitman Hart. He had the wrestling skill, but he didn't have near the charisma that Hogan had. Nobody was going to replace Hogan in that time frame. Hogan had been the franchise player for years and years at that point. So Bret, is in regards to Flair's comments about not drawing money, it wasn't necessarily Bret's fault. For one, in '92, '93, the product went to absolute shit. It went to complete trash. It wasn't necessarily Bret the Hitman Hart's fault that he happened to be the champion during a very bad time for the WWF when they went to their steroid trial and stuff. So my opinion is, I feel like Flair's a little bit out of line, because if you look at '92, '93 when he was in the WWF, his run really wasn't that good either. So Flair is casting stones on Bret as being a poor champion, but really, 92, nobody liked Flair in the locker room either. So Flair is casting stones at Bret, but Bret just happened to be in the WWF at a very and be the champion at a very very bad time. So, in my opinion, Bret Hart was not a fail WWF champion. He was a victim of the time and circumstances. So, I'll say Bret Hart was a success in the WWF, later going on to be a huge megastar and a legend and a Hall of Famer. But at the time, Bret was not a failed champion, in my opinion. So you guys make sure you leave your comments below. I'm Gemini. Thank you.